Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we are discussing a watch launched in 2020 in homage to an Omega Seamaster Diver 300-meter chronograph that originally came out in 1993. So this is the Omega Seamaster Diver 300-meter chronograph Tantalum, although to be sure, it includes tantalum, titanium, and rose gold. The original Diver 300-meter chronograph in tritone came out in 1993, and whereas the standard Diver 300-meter became famous as the James Bond watch of the era, I always felt like the tritone chronograph was more of a Bond villain watch. It's luxurious, sybaritic, over the top in every way. This watch, of course, continues in that vein, bringing back the chrono. We got a tritone Diver 300-meter in 2018. This is not that watch. This is the chrono that came out in 2020. So, 44 millimeters in diameter. The watch is 17.6 millimeters thick, and from lug tip to lug tip, 52.4 millimeters with a pivoted end link. So that's the total distance across the wrist. The space between the lugs is 21 millimeters, and you can see on my wrist of 16 centimeters circumference. The watch does fit, and I'll zoom out a little bit to give you the benefit of the doubt and better perspective. Size-wise, it fits my wrist, and I'd have to describe it as approximately the weight of a steel watch, because while it's mostly titanium, it also includes tantalum and rose gold that provides something of an offset to the lightness of the titanium. So if your wrist is my size, 16 centimeters circumference or larger, you should have no trouble wearing the watch any smaller, and you probably want to buy a different Seamaster. Okay, let's take a look at the hardware. It's as impressive as the rest of the watch. We have the traditional Seamaster Diver 300-meter bracelet that's been part of the line since it debuted in 1993, but you can see that the latest versions use removable links fixed by screws rather than the old pins and sleeves, and the edges of the links are a lot more squared off than the original somewhat rolled and dressy link profile. We have blue tantalum sandwiched into the intermediate links, flanked by rose gold, flanked by titanium. That's how this works. You can see there's a little, I'd say, third link. It's not quite a half link, it's a 1/3 link built into the bracelet on each side. And then we have a adjustment system that includes a push button slider with 9.6 millimeters of incremental tool-free adjustment. And then you have a fold-out extension, and to maintain the tight tolerances over time, Omega uses twin spring-loaded ceramic pin snaps on each side, as the titanium cannot aggress against the ceramic. The ceramic will maintain its volume and the snappiness of the clasp into the future, and you do have that push button slider for fine-tuning the fit. Externally, you can see the clasp features polish and satin. All of this is thick gauge metal, very robust. Rolling around to the case, you can see that the case is titanium. The crowns are gold. The bezel is that lovely blue tantalum, and you know that because, first of all, it's an inimitable blue color, and second, because it says tantalum on it. We have Sedna rose gold, which is Omega's version of Rolex Everose or Hublot's King Gold. It's a very, very red gold with a high percentage of copper to give it intensity and a high percentage of platinum to resist fading and oxidizing over time. The bezel features polished, raised and relieved indices numerals, and then it has a lovely frosted base. It is a 120 click bezel, and you can see that in the dark, Omega looms the whole dial, including the sub-registers. You can also see that the bezel pearl and the minute hand are both green, different from the blue that you see everywhere else. That makes it easier to recognize them in relation to each other while timing a dive or operating in the dark, or both. The watch dial base is a combination of polished and satinated ceramic, and you can tell because it says zirconium oxides and chemical formula just below the hands. We have all applied indices as well as hands in skeleton form that reference those original so-called Bond Seamasters of the 90s. And then we have dual registers, even though it is a tri-register chronograph. The chronograph register over at 3 o'clock has coaxial minutes and hours, and that's how they create a clean twin register dial. The watch has pushers that look like they might be screw downs, but they're just shouldered. And you can see that they're artfully shouldered in a fashion that makes it harder to shear them off, but you don't actually have to screw them in or out to operate the chronograph. That is available at all times. Even though the watch is 300 meters water resistant, you do not need screw down pushers to achieve that. Here we have a little conical helium escape valve. If you open that now, with this generation, it can be opened during a dive if you think you need it. And when internal pressure exceeds external pressure by 2 to 3 bar, the valve opens internally, releasing any helium that might accumulate inside of the watch during saturation diving. The watch does include a few subsidiary functions, including a hacking seconds or stop seconds function, and then there is a time zone function. So if you're traveling, you can move the hour hand while the watch keeps ticking and the chronograph keeps running, which is great for jumping time zones without losing time by stopping your watch. So that's a nice feature to have. The watch also includes a caliber 9900, which is a master chronometer. You can see from the front, METAS certified. And this watch is numbered. You can see on the side it's been numbered. It has a solid gold plate that's affixed to the flank. It is not a limited edition. It is a numbered edition made in relatively small annual volumes. So let's talk about 9900. So it's an automatic winder winding bidirectionally, twin barrels, 60-hour power reserve, stop seconds, time zone function. It is a master chronometer, which means it's been tested in 6 positions, timed as a fully assembled watch, not as a bare movement as it would be in the COSC. COSC tests a bare movement in 5 positions. This watch is tested fully assembled in 6 positions. It is also tested for winding efficiency, power reserve, water resistance, shock resistance, and anti-magnetism. So not only is it a chronometer, but it is so much more. Durability, power reserve, reliability, resilience, and of course chronometry, all part of the METAS test. The anti-magnetic qualities of this watch with its anti-magnetic escapement and silicon hairspring are surpassing, greater than 15,000 Gauss. Remember, Rolex's mil-Gauss is rated at only 1,000 Gauss officially, and while it might be a little bit more unofficially, there's no doubt that this watch, at virtually amagnetic, has few peers in magnetic resistance. You can see there's a full balance bridge with a free sprung balance for shock tolerance. We have here a column wheel, which you can see through a skeletonized bridge above. The column wheel makes for super crisp feel and sound to the chronograph, and then the vertical clutch allows you to start the chronograph without any extraneous movement to the seconds hand. It also allows you to leave the chrono running full-time if you please. You can do that. There's no play in a vertical clutch, so you don't have the same problem you would on a lateral clutch. You can just leave it running. The George Daniels Coaxial Escapement here is present in its most advanced form, the tri-level, improving power reserve, reducing service needs, and improving chronometry. And of course, the watch pivots on 54 joules. It has a twin barrel movement. Twin barrels important because unlike a single barrel movement, you don't get a big drop off in balance amplitude after the first 24 hours because you have a more even torque release courtesy of the twin barrels. So reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.